My name is Steve Smith. This is TQA Weekly. If ever you have any questions, comments, suggestions for topics, email me at ask@tqaweekly.com. Go to my website, tqaweekly.com, where you can interact with others on this episode, past others, find other ways of subscribing to the show, as well as contacting me directly using the contact form. And if you're already on YouTube, you can always post the comments down below. And if you want to make this show better, get future episodes 24 hours in advance of everyone else, and help me actually get all of my audio hardware for the moment. So I'm looking for a new microphone as well as soundboard. Go to patreon.com/TQA Weekly and help me out with this show. And this week's topic might have some impact to some people who might actually learn something for once, as well as getting rid of misnomer information. Things that, you would expect people who have experience to realize, but they don't necessarily update on everything or don't realize a whole bunch of things. So, first of all, your power supply is the most important part of your computer. It's the heart and soul. Its job is to actually convert AC power, alternating current, into DC power that can be used by your computer, as well as outputting enough wattage to actually supply your GPU, your CPU, your RAM, your motherboard, your HD, your hard drives, your SSDs, and everything else inside. So basically it has a very important job. No power supply, no computer. If it goes up, you can actually take everything out at the same time. Here's another thing. Manufacturers post for free the manuals for all the motherboards, CPUs, graphic cards, and everything. So you can actually figure out in advance how much power they're expecting the system to have already. So that's one of the free ways of figuring out how computers work, people. Just go to the manufacturer websites, download the PDF, read the manuals. A lot of troubleshooting information that I know actually comes from manuals. It's a very useful trick into figuring out what's wrong with the computer. Because sometimes they already know that's going to happen and they can give you tricks of how to get out. The other thing is this clock speed wars are basically done. There's a lot of people that don't believe me. We basically tap out at 5-6 gigahertz. We don't go anywhere higher. What we have done over time is, instead of going up into the gigahertz range, because basically you can figure out how much each of the processors costs based on their clock speed, basically meaning it's dead. They already know in advance what it is. We know that the die of each of the components throughout the generations is also shrinking. A die shrink has a very significant side effect. It becomes more efficient and requires less power. Efficiency is brought on by the lack of distance between each of the components inside of the CPU and GPU. Because everything is closer, everything communicates faster. Efficiency. But like things that are also getting smaller and smaller and smaller, the volume required by other things to fill it is also less. Because the dies are smaller, this requires less electricity to come out of the power supply, resulting in less power being required. I hope you're understanding this right now. So if we know that we're doing a switch from hard drives to SSDs, which cuts our wattage already in half, if we know that the power supplies are basically halving over many generations, are now at a point where they can no longer go down, and we're basically expanding into cores, and we also know that graphics cards are actually shrinking down and starting to move towards HBM, which is basically RAM on top of the die, which means the distances of everything is actually shrinking. We know that we need less power. This means where once it was true that having two graphics cards in a processor meant we needed 1,000 watts, this is no longer true at all. Here is a very interesting trick for those of you that listen to my show to figure out how to build your computer. It's called PCPartPicker.com. Build out your computer. It will help you out making sure that all the pieces actually fit together and that they actually are compatible. It will give you a wattage rating. You have two choices in life. You can pay for a cheap, theoretically cheap power supply, which I would tell you is not necessarily cheaper than you think, or you can match the power supply, the power rating that PC Part Picker and other websites like them would tell you your computer would use to the peak efficiency level of a power supply that has an 80 plus rating. If you do this, you might very well half the intended power supply that you thought you needed, to the point where an i7 4790K with two GTX 970s in SLI only needs 541 watts power supply. Since the closest to that is a 550 and you wouldn't want to be that close, we're talking about 600, maybe 650 watts at the most that would be required to run that kind of machine, which puts it clearly into the 80 plus silver or gold. Whereas if we're talking about an inefficient power supply, it may very well cost more for a higher wattage just to compensate for the difference. Efficient power supplies that have ratings that are better don't necessarily cost more. You just need a smaller wattage. Just make sure that it matches what those websites tell you and what the manuals tell you it may very well need. You don't need large power supplies anymore. Overpowered power supplies end up being wastes of space that never reach their full potential, that become less economical on your wallet by drawing too much power from the wall and not ever being efficient at the same time. They have a minimum efficient range that you need to make sure you are within, and they stay efficient up to a very high level. They say it in their manual. Like I said, the manuals are given by the manufacturers free as a form of a PDF download. So I hope this helps you out. And to all those that still thought that your power supply needed to be 1,000 watts for 2 graphics cards and a CPU, go over to Linus Tech Tips channel and look at the 8 graphics card machine for the 8 players and the 2 CPUs, only requiring a 1600 watt for 8 graphics cards. Enough said. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, dislike, leave your comments down below. And for those that need help, use my Twitter. It's at ZEDAXIS. Go to PC Part Picker, input your computer there, send me the link, and if I have time, I will try to go through all of them and make suggestions. They are only suggestions, and you also have to be sure that you tell me what you intend to do with this computer at the same time. And for those who also want to help me out with the show, don't forget to go to patreon.com/TQA Weekly. All the links are down below. Have a great day, and goodbye. Toodles.